The camera opens on a slow drone over nighttime Los Angeles. Glittering towers, endless freeways, the faint glow of oil pumps still nodding in the hills. Then it cuts sharp to a single tent on a sidewalk, a shopping cart parked beside it. A voice, calm, low, slightly skeptical. This is Los Angeles, a city that prints money out of thin air, a city where the world's richest people park their egos next to some of America's poorest, a trillion-dollar economy, one of the largest on earth. And yet the question nobody wants to ask out loud, how did a dusty Mexican pueblo in the middle of a desert actually get this rich? It wasn't destiny. It was a chain of very human moves, some brilliant, some ruthless, some absurd, that turned sand and sunshine into serious wealth. And the story matters right now, because the same forces that built LA are straining it to the breaking point. Let's go back. 44 settlers, mostly mixed Spanish, Indian, and African, scratch out a small farming village they call El Pueblo de Nuestrasi, or La Reina de los Angeles. For the next 70 years it stays small, cattle, oranges, not much else. Then 1848, the United States takes California. Gold is discovered up north, but LA doesn't get the mines. What it gets is something quieter, a railroad war. In the 1880s, the Southern Pacific and the Santa Fe start slashing ticket prices from the Midwest. One-way fares drop to $5. Land agents flood the East with posters of orange groves and ocean breezes. People pour in. Population jumps from 11,000 in 1880 to 50,000 by 1890. Real estate prices triple overnight, then collapse in the bust of 1887. Classic boom and bust. But the pattern is set. Sell the dream, cash the check. The real ignition comes in 1892. Edward Doheny, a failed gold prospector, drills a hole behind a house near what is now Dodger Stadium. He hits soil, black gold at 160 feet. Within months, derricks sprout across the basin. By the 1920s, Los Angeles is pumping a quarter of the entire world's oil supply. Derricks stand in Beverly Hills backyards. They line the streets of Signal Hill. The smell of crude hangs in the air while Hollywood is still learning how to point a camera. Oil money is the first real engine. It pays for factories. It funds banks. It turns ranch land into subdivisions. But it's not enough to make a global city. For that, LA needs two more ingredients: water and illusion. Water first. In 1904, the city quietly buys up land and water rights in the Owens Valley, 200 miles northeast. Engineer William Mulholland builds an aqueduct that drops the water by gravity alone, tunnels, siphons, 233 miles of concrete and steel. When it opens in 1913, the city throws a party. The Owens Valley farmers, who wake up to dry riverbeds, do not. The water grab is so ruthless it later inspires the movie Chinatown. But without it, LA stays a medium town. With it, the city can grow. Now the illusion. Around 1910, a handful of independent filmmakers are fleeing Thomas Edison's patent police back east. They want sun, cheap land, and no unions. They find all three in a sleepy suburb called Hollywood. The first studio opens in 1911. By 1915, the industry is exploding. Chaplin, Pickford, Griffith, feature films. Star power. The studios don't just make movies, they sell a lifestyle. Orange groves become Spanish-style mansions. The California Dream gets its official soundtrack. By the late 1920s, the pieces lock together: oil, water, movies, and a real estate machine that never stops. Population hits 1 million. The city annexes everything it can reach. Freeways start carving the map. The machine is running. Then comes the biggest government subsidy America ever handed a single metro area. World War II. The federal government needs planes, ships, parts, fast. Los Angeles already has the climate, the open land, the port, and the oil. Washington pours in billions. Lockheed, Douglas, Hughes, North American Aviation. Factories that once built cars now build B-17s and P-51s. By 1945, LA is the Pittsburgh of the West. The Cold War keeps the tap open. Aerospace becomes the new oil, steady contracts, high wages, engineers moving west by the thousands. Suburbs explode. Orange groves disappear under tract homes at the rate of 3,000 acres a day. Veterans get cheap GI loans. The car becomes religion. The port starts handling cargo for a booming Pacific trade. By 1960, the county has nearly 2 million people. By 1980, almost 8 million. The wealth machine is humming at full throttle. But here's the uncomfortable math nobody puts on the Chamber of Commerce brochure. Much of LA's fortune was never pure private enterprise. It was land speculation backed by railroads, oil extracted from public geology, water stolen from a distant valley, and then massive federal defense dollars, taxpayer money from every corner of the country subsidizing factories and engineers. The city sold the world a fantasy while The public sector quietly paid many of the bills. That formula worked brilliantly for decades until it didn't. The 1970s and 80s bring cracks. Manufacturing starts to drift overseas. Aerospace shrinks after the Cold War ends. The 1992 riots exposed the racial and economic fractures that sprawl had papered over. By the early 2000s, the old industrial base is mostly gone. What replaces it? Three things. First, the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach together now move roughly 1/3 of all containerized cargo entering the United States. 31% of everything America buys from overseas rolls through San Pedro Bay. That's not glamour. That's raw logistical muscle, hundreds of thousands of jobs in trucking, warehousing, and logistics. Second, entertainment evolves. Hollywood stops being just movies shot on sound stages. It becomes a global content machine: television, streaming, music, theme parks, licensing, even in its current slump, with production down 30% since 2022 and thousands of below-the-line jobs gone. The industry still anchors a creative ecosystem that pulls in talent and capital from everywhere. Third, and quieter, tech and finance move in. Silicon Beach, venture capital, entertainment tech, real estate development that treats housing like a hedge fund. The city's GDP crosses $1 trillion in 2024. That is more than most countries. On paper, LA is richer than ever. But the hidden mechanism is still the same. One that built it: hype versus reality. The city sells lifestyle to the world while pricing its own workers out of the lifestyle. Median home prices hover near $1 million. Rent eats half a paycheck for millions. The wealth concentrates at the top: tech founders, studio executives, real estate investors, while service workers, drivers, and creatives scrape by. The same sprawl that once felt like freedom now means 2-hour commutes and some of the worst air quality in the country. The oil wells may be mostly capped, but the car culture they birthed still poisons the sky. And the stakes are rising. Climate change is drying the West. Wildfires lick at the edges. The port faces automation battles and supply chain shocks. Streaming has shattered the old studio model. Foreign tax incentives are luring productions away. Inequality is no longer a side effect, it's structural. When the next recession hits or the next big industry shifts, the safety net is thinner than the billboards suggest. LA got rich by betting on growth at any cost. It bet on water it didn't own, oil it couldn't replenish, dreams it could export, and federal money it didn't have to repay. That bet paid off beyond anyone's imagination. But the city never quite built the institutions or the housing stock or the public trust to make the wealth stick for everyone who showed up. So here we are. A place that invented the modern American fantasy is now living inside its own contradictions. The palm trees are still there. The red carpets still roll. The container ships still line the horizon like steel giants waiting for orders. But the question hangs in the smoggy air. Can a city built on selling the impossible figure out how to make the possible work for the people who actually live in it? Or will the next boom just be another story we tell ourselves while the tents stay pitched on the sidewalk? Fade out on the skyline at dawn, the pumps still nodding in the distance, the freeways already filling up, the dream still running,